You not know you can be an heir and not know it? Some people have been willed houses and didn't know it was their house. Because an heir does not require an action to be an heir. It's not by works, lest any man should boast. An heir just receives. It's not a pay. It's just receiving on the basis of relationship. Do you have a relationship with Jesus? Or are you trying to receive from a God you don't know? Knowing him is more important than serving him. Because you cannot serve who you don't know. So some of you are trying to do God's service, but you don't know God. So here Apollos makes the introduction, and he said, "And in these last days spoken unto us by his Son, whom he hath appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds." Can't say that about the prophets. He's been appointed heir of all things, and then he says, by whom also he made the worlds. He made the worlds. Through his Son, he made the worlds. Through his Son, he made the world. Through his Word, he made the world. Through his Word, he made the world. What you talking about, Jason? I'm teaching it that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. I'm trying not to get into how words create. Because if I get into that, I might get stuck into that and stay too long. But words have so much power that words create. When God got ready to create the world, he didn't use hammers or nails. He didn't use boards or committees. He didn't use ballot boxes and toll booths. When God got ready to create the world, God stepped out and said, "Let there be." And it became whatever he said. He stepped out on absolutely nothing and spoke something into existence. And whatever he said, it became. I want you to understand that we serve a God who cannot lie. Okay? He's the only one that you can say that about, that cannot lie. Some of us choose not to lie. Some of us are still working on it. But when it comes to God, God cannot lie. And the reason that God cannot lie is not talking about his morals, it's talking about his nature. It is impossible for God to lie. If I call the pew white, I lied because I know it's red. But if God calls it white, as soon as he says it, it becomes whatever he said. God, who at sundry times. Throw your hands up and say something, Jesus. Whatever he says it is. If he says I'm healed, I'm healed. If he says I'm blessed, I'm blessed. If he says I'm whole, I'm whole. God will always have the last word. After everybody has given their opinion, God will always have the last word. God, who has sundry times, he has spoken unto us by his Son. And then he says that he upholds all things by the word of his power. So he's gone from the spoken word to the sustaining word. Oh my God, this is good even if you don't know it. It's one thing to speak a thing. It's another thing to sustain what has been spoken. A lot of people say something today and it's something else tomorrow. But he upholds all things by the word of his power. And what he's talking about is that when God said, "Let there be light," it was really, "Let there be light, 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 light." That word has not come back yet. It's still holding the sun right up in his place. That word will not return unto him void. It will do thing that it was set out to do. So when God says, be healed, it's not over like that. It's be healed. And as long as that word is on assignment, it cannot return void because it upholds all things by the word. Good God Almighty. Slap somebody and tell him he's holding me up. He's holding me up. People let me down, but he's holding me up. Jobs let me down, but he's holding me up. Relatives let me down, but he's holding me up by the word of his power. He's awesome. He's incredible. He's masterful. He's majestic. He's mighty. He's sovereign. He's absolute. I'm talking about your daddy. I'm talking about your God. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so. This thing about this word stuff it's like crazy, man. It's like crazy. God used it instead of hammers and nails and said, let there be, and it became whatever he said. He separated the firmaments that were above the waters from the firmaments that were beneath the waters. And it became whatever he said. It was so good that before there was anybody there to tell him how good it was, he praised himself and said, that's good right there. That's good right there. At the end of each day, he said, that's a good job right there. Check that out. You see that? You see that? You see how I make the lesser lights to rule the night and the greater lights to rule the day? He said, that's good right there. Yeah. He spoke to the sea and said, bring forth, the fish started swimming. Bring forth in the air and the birds started flying. Bring forth to the ground, vegetation started growing. He said, that's some good stuff right there. And then he got together, said, let us make man in our own likeness, in our own image, after our own kind. And he said, this is the only part of the creation that I will be this intimate with. Everything else I stood out from it and spoken, it became whatever I said. But in order to make man what he needs to be, I'm going to have to touch him and shape him and mold him a little bit and be intimately engaged with him. And because man was created by touch, he's been needing touch ever since. You can't change who you won't touch. He breathed into him the breath of lives, and he became a living soul. So now Adam is running the garden. The ecosystems have all been set in place. A system that not only creates, but sustains. He will not have to get up and say, bring forth to the sea again, because each fish had a seed inside of itself. You don't want to bother me today. He will not say to the land, bring forth again, because he put a system in place of recycling, that in the process of growing and living and dying, it is always recycling itself again. He's finished. Bring forth, and the birds begin to fly. He won't have to do that again, because he gave them the ability to push out eggs and keep them warm and nurture them until they hatch. And the next generation is a derivative of the first experience. It's absolutely so awesome. It's so finished. It's so cool. It's so complete that he sat down. Oh, Father, be seated. He sat down. His work was over. It was done. Everything was in place. The systems, the cycles were all in place. The earth is still spinning. The sun is still moving. The galaxies are still turning. And everything is held in balance by the word of his power. His system was so complete that he sat down to rest until Satan creeped up in the garden and challenged the word Eve knew. since the Word created it, he said, if I can challenge the Word, God hath not said the day that you eat of this tree you shall surely die. Remember that? He's challenging the Word. Because when you change the Word, you change the results. And when this false doctrine found its way into the first family, it contaminated the process. Can I go a little bit deeper? And when it contaminated the process, God broke his rest. If you miss that, you miss everything. God broke his rest because man had fallen and could not redeem himself. So God says, if you're going to be redeemed, I'm going to have to do it. It says it this way: the voice of the Lord walked through the cool of the garden. The voice started walking through the garden. The voice that had been seated has now started walking through the garden. This is the first mention of Jesus. A voice walking? A voice walking? I didn't know a voice could walk. The voice of the Lord walking through the cool of the garden. Is not this, and the Word was made flesh? So anytime the Word starts walking, it's through creating. It's gone into redemption.
This is just awesome.
Adam, where art thou? I heard that voice. I was naked. I was afraid. I hid from the Word. If you hide from the Word, you're going to stay where you are. And here he comes with the substitute. Now, Adam, you made a mess. I'm going to patch this up. It won't fix it, but I'm going to patch it up. It won't fix it because I'm going to use the blood of an animal, which will not purge sin. It'll pacify sin. But this blood is representative of another blood that will come later that will fix it forever. Stay with me. Stay with me. So when the writer gets down into this text and he starts talking about how God has made Jesus in his express image, and that he goes on to talk about that he has purged our sins once and for all, and it says by himself. By himself. It means, you want to know what it means? Okay, it means, it means that of all the millions of people, billions on the planet, all contaminated by sin, that when Christ came, like the voice that walked in the garden, the voice in the garden came to salvage one man. Christ came for us all and carried all sin. All sin. He said, since I see you, devil, you like to play some tricks. I'm gonna fix you good. I'm gonna fix you. I'm gonna fix you so good. I'm not gonna sit down like I did before and leave you with the possibility of messing with the future. So when I come this time, I'm gonna fix everything they did and everything they will do and everything they are doing and everybody around them. If they'll come to me, he said, they have laid on him the iniquity of us all. So the text, in your text right there, it says that Christ by himself, let me stop. What am I doing? Can I show you this one little thing? By himself. himself. By himself. That doesn't just mean him alone, though that is true. But it also means that he redeemed us by himself. See, I came to church this morning by a car. Somebody else came to church by a bus. When you say by something, it means the vehicle through which you accomplish something. So when it says that he did it by... Everything he needed, he had. Everything he wanted, he supplied. Everything that was demanded was within his power. He didn't have to use an angel. He didn't have to use a prophet. He didn't have to use a priest. He didn't have to use a method, a recipe, an incantation, a spell, but by himself. He had purged all sin. Now, I know it made some of you uncomfortable when I went into future sins, but might I remind you that your past sins were future when he died. 2,000 years ago, you were not a twinkle in your daddy's eye. You hadn't had time to mess up. The blood can't just reach backward. It has to reach forward. It reaches to the highest